Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wing It Formula One podcast. I'm Freddie Coates, and I'm joined by Nigel Chew and Adam Dickinson to look ahead to the return of the Turkish Grand Prix. We haven't had a Turkish Grand Prix since 2011, and due to coronavirus, we now have a 2020 return to the intercity Istanbul Park. How are you guys? Nigel, you having a good day?
Yes, as always. It's a very good day, yeah.
Very good day. That's nice. Adam, is your day going well as well?
You know how it is, Freddie. It's always sunny in Sheffield. And yet again, it's cloudy. So, yes, I'm having a great day.
Brilliant. Everyone loves the weather. Okay, so let's get straight into it then. We're coming back to Turkey. Do you guys really like it there? I think it's one of the tracks that always pops up when people say, what track do we want back? And everyone says Turkey. So are you one of those Turkey love-ins?
Yes.
I actually think this is going to be the end of people asking for Turkey to come back. I think
that's cool.
I think it will not live up to expectations, and then people will be like, "Oh, actually, yeah, do we really need it? Probably not." So, normally I am a big Turkey lover. I think this could be potentially kind of the time when that stops and F1 moves on from Istanbul Park.
I mean, yeah, of course, F1 fans are very fickle people. And as soon as there's one wet race at Hockenheim, they think it has to be every track on the calendar. So
does it not?
So maybe that will strike the Turkish Grand Prix this year. We're going to go straight into some calendar news that has just been unveiled by Formula One officially. It's been rumoured and reported recently, and we've spoken about it. The 23 race calendar, Saudi Arabian Grand Prix coming on at the end of the year. What is interesting is the lack of a Vietnamese Grand Prix only a year after it was scheduled to happen in the first place.
Oh, what a shame.
With no Vietnamese race. Nigel, you seem really upset. Are you okay? Are you okay with the lack of a Vietnamese Grand Prix?
Oh, only just, all right, yeah. It's such a massive, it's not a massive disappointment. I don't really care, to be honest. It might have been a bit of an interesting track, but, I wasn't too hyped over it, I guess. I'd rather go to somewhere like Turkey or Imola or somewhere like that. I do think new tracks are a good thing, but I don't think F1 needs another street circuit, personally. And yeah, I don't think Vietnam offered anything too spectacular. And the track looked, it was just a weird track. And yes, that could be a good thing because you got to look at Baku. But I don't know. I was just never a fan of how it looked, I guess. So I'm not too disappointed.
I think I'm disappointed that we don't get to go there. I mean, I wasn't really looking forward to it. I didn't think it would be a great race. But I kind of feel disappointed that having gone through all of the effort to get it on the calendar and, we're kind of deprived of a chance to see whether it would be good because, like you mentioned with Baku, a lot of people probably wouldn't have, rated that before it came on the calendar. But actually, it's one of the more original tracks on the calendar, I think, anyway. So while I don't think it would have been a great race, I'm kind of sad, disappointed that we won't get a chance to actually see that in action.
Yeah, I'm in the camp with you, Adam. I think it's a bit of. I mean, we were only 3 weeks away from it happening when we were in Melbourne last year, and it was on the card. The track was ready to go for a Grand Prix, and unfortunately, it's never got to happen. And all the work that's gone into it, all the rigmarole, is just going to be left on the wayside. Which, yeah, we shouldn't be judging Formula One based on the workload, because then we probably would still be going to Korea or India or something like that because they've built tracks there. But
yeah. I feel Vietnam
it's
would have been...
doesn't get its chance. It had one chance, and that was ruined by coronavirus. And yeah, the promoter behind it has been arrested for corruption charges. We can gloss over that. That's not this podcast's remit often. And but it would have been cool to see real life Formula One cars there, because now it's just going to feature as an Easter egg on a game, isn't it?
My problem is I think it would have ended up like South Korea or India, and it's just a waste of time and a waste of money. I really do not think Vietnam would have stayed on for the long term. And yeah,
I think there's a chance it could have done, because it would be a destination Grand Prix. You've got a Grand Prix in a city. You've got a Grand Prix in Hanoi, an amazing city for people to travel to, or for people to find to travel to. Thing with Gyeongnam for South Korea was they were going to try and bring the city to South Korea, to the circuit, and that never really happened. It's happened a bit with Shanghai, but only 10 years later. And the Buddha International Circuit in India was miles away from anything, and those are the ones that have fallen off the calendar. Like, you've got Barcelona's still there because it's near Barcelona. Budapest is called Budapest because it's near Budapest. It's a destination Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think as far as I know, the corruption charges weren't related to the Grand Prix itself. I think it was kind of. But you know, I agree. You know, there are tracks that F1 have gone to, like the ones you've just listed, and either, well, it not been a good race and they've left, or it not been a good race and they've stayed, like Sochi. But, you know, I just think, you know, for everyone involved, for Vietnamese fans or fans in the area that would have wanted to go to it, they now get deprived of that chance as well. So, you know, well, if we'd gone there and it was bad and we left after a year or 2 years, you know, I think fair enough. But I think it's a shame that they will never get to kind of have that chance and see and have raced on the circuit and see what it does. And like Freddie says, you know, it could have surprised us, and, you know, very possibly could, you know, become a classic on the calendar, or, you know, something that fans want to go to.
I think what will be interesting to see is what takes its place, because it hasn't just been dropped from the calendar and removed to be a 22 race calendar with a gap in the middle, or someone moving forward in the way that we've seen Sochi being the 4th race gap, or Baku being that position in the past before. Sochi's remained at the end of close to the end of the season. Baku has remained post Monaco. So we should be interested to see Baku back to back with Monaco. Anyway, I think. What do you think will take up the gap? Portimao was trending in the UK yesterday after the announcement. I think people really want to see that track return. Do we think there's going to be a few pitches for a few other tracks, maybe a Mugello or another track to have popped up in 2020, for instance, Istanbul Park?
It's a good question.
Kyle Army would be cool.
Sepang,
yeah.
Yes,
Formula One
Sepang.
back. Sepang.
Go to Sepang, yes.
Never
Adam,
overrated
do you want to pitch Sepang to Stefano Domenicali?
Yeah, it always produced good races, and I think it's still, unlike perhaps Turkey, you know, we'll have to reserve judgment until we see the race. But I think, you know, it'd still be suited, still be good for today's F1 cars. I think it still produced great races, still produced races that mix things up, and, you know, it was a unique challenge, but yeah, a different challenge, popular with fans. People still want it back. Go there, Stefano, please.
Nigel Chu, what track are
you
going
to
pitch?
I'm actually going to agree with that. I do like Sepang. My serious answer is it will be the track which offers the most money, because F1 likes money, don't they? No, I think it'll be Portimao. Yeah, I think just because logistically, I think it'll be easier with it next to Spain. And out of all the new and returning tracks this year, I think a Portuguese Grand Prix will be a good thing for F1. I don't know.
I might throw Nürburgring into the mix. Nürburgring is all right this year. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think it'd be a good Grand Prix to have, really, a German Grand Prix, because Hockenheim, I think, isn't on this new schedule. So why not bring back a German Grand Prix? That's my pitch.
I think we rated Portimao as one of the worst races of the season. I think we rated it as the worst returning track. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
Why it would be Portimao.
Maybe it's just a kind of one-off racing. You know, it'll be better in the future. But I kind of wouldn't get too excited. I'd much rather see Nürburgring go, but I'd also rather see Nürburgring maybe at a different time in the calendar. So yeah. I mean, I don't think there's Vietnam and Saudi Arabia were the two kind of countries, not traditional F1 countries or not European countries, who were like throwing a lot of money at getting a circuit. I can't think of many. I mean, there's the Miami.
Yeah, it's
Grand
not
Prix
amazing.
Thrown around,
It's
but there's
not an
not
amazing
many.
track record for Liberty on getting tracks onto the calendar. They've done well with coronavirus and COVID to get last minute European tracks, but the big ventures they've had, which have been Miami, which has just been bouncing up and down all over the place, is still not on a provisional calendar. As Adam bounces up and down, we've got Vietnam had its one opportunity and now is off the calendar because presumably it can't match the funds or something, I'm presuming. Zandvoort is still yet to come, to be fair. We have got Zandvoort on the way. There's nothing has been done to quell Zandvoort. But it's not the best record for tracks.
I disagree with that. They brought back France. Yeah, no one likes it.
France was signed by Bernie anyway.
Was it?
Yeah, it was signed in 2016, late 2016 was France.
Let me think.
But we should be at Paul Ricard anyway. It should be at Magny Cours.
There doesn't seem to be.
Magny Cours is lovely. I like Magny Cours.
No, I'm sorry.
Magny Cours is a great track.
It's worse than Paul Ricard.
People don't like Magny Cours because it's in the middle of nowhere.
Freddie, give the pitch for Magny Cours.
I think
you can't overtake.
You can overtake.
Nigel, your chance.
They did overtake. The cars overtook each other.
Freddie, give your pitch for Magny Cours, and then Nigel can respond.
Oh wow, we're doing like a proper formal debate. So I say like,
go.
I think Magny Cours is a brilliant little track. It's not very old school, but it's got the old school vibes to it, which is what Paul Ricard tries to recreate and doesn't. I know this isn't a fight between Magny Cours and Paul Ricard because we can both accept that Paul Ricard is a dull blue and red bore fest, but I think Magny Cours is a proper good challenge, and I think it's just a track where you look at a car on there, it looks like it's kind of on the edge where it's spinning around. It's like a go-kart track for a Formula One car, and yeah, I think it's medium to high speed, pretty good. And a modern car like this, I think it'd be great.
You cannot overtake, especially with the cars now. Imagine the cars now, where even with DRS and whatever, it would be virtually impossible to make an overtake. And plus, it would be one stop.
You can overtake. You get a really long, fast bit going up to the hairpin around where it's turn 3 or 4, going all long round up into there. A car can, it'll be in the washer bit, but then if it opens up the DRS onto the hairpin, then they will be able to get past.
The straight's too short, I think. Plus, back in the day, at least you could do a 3 or 4 pit stop race because the pit lane was short. Whereas nowadays, it will just be one stop, I presume.
So maybe the problem's with Formula One, not with the Magny Cours.
Yes, the problem is Formula One. Formula One is
always Formula
But
One.
Nigel wants to go back to Magny Cours because it's Formula One's the problem, not Magny Cours. Thanks, Nigel.
I think there's also, looking at the wider market, there's not like Oman or the Democratic Republic of Congo, or I don't know, there's not some big exotic country that's kind of really lining up to throw, that really wants to put a race together. Now we've got Saudi Arabia on the...
Saudi Arabia will have 2 races by 2023.
Yeah, but, I just don't...
The European Grand Prix.
It's surely got to be either Sepang or, one of the European ones that featured this year to fill it.
I think Formula One,
Indianapolis.
Trying to speak to Argentina.
Yes. Indianapolis would be fun.
Indianapolis would be very cool, and Roger Penske has been showing around John Tott at this year's Indy 500 a couple of months ago. So there probably is some. I think they did think that Cota might fall off the calendar actually, so it might just be for a contingency plan for that. But that's probably a story for a podcast in the future. I think there's a lot of. They were speaking to Argentina, Buenos Aires, bringing that back. It hasn't been a Grand Prix since the 90s. But I think that was only really minor discussions. I think we're not really going to get many big hitters, many cool countries for Formula One. I think it is going to be where the money is for the next 2 years while Formula One financially recovers from a year with the majority of the Grand Prix having 0 attendance and the majority of them falling off the wayside. At least they've managed to get the TV money in, which is why we've still got 4 races and it's November. But
where is the money though? out of the tracks we've mentioned, which would offer the most money for F1 to go there next year?
Probably Portimao, I'd say. I reckon they could be the most likely to get a fund together. I think, the German tracks have proved that they can't get a fund together. You're going to need a lot more money to get someone like Mugello on board when you've got Monza. Portimao's got, I think, the most unique prospect going for it. I just don't think they would want to have it back to back with Catalonia. Barcelona, it's on the other side of Spain to where Portugal is, but it's there's a geographical market that they'll want Formula One to have this bit of the year with Spain and Portugal, and then they'll think we come back later, we can get them again and get 2 Grand Prix rather than having something. I'll go to Grand Prix this week, not next week. If you say you live bang in the middle of Spain.
Well, it depends if there's fans. I mean, I'll be surprised if all 23 races happen next year. To be honest.
What do you think would fall off?
Australia. At the moment, I'll be surprised if Australia does begin the season.
Do you not think there would be a contingency plan to put Australia at the end? Australia are trying to get fans in.
Yeah.
Or in April, they could shuffle it through. Be quite late though. But
it'd be quite late, but they would still only be in China. It would be Bahrain, China, and then Australia, and then you've got 2 weeks to get over to Spain. But that's what they do from testing anyway.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
I still think Sepang.
I think, there's lots of cool tracks we could have, but I kind of probably think they'd probably just move Australia a month later. That seems to be the most logical option now you've mentioned it.
I might just biff it forward a few months and he'll be fine.
What's coronavirus?
Or start with USA. Start with USA and then have Australia. Swap USA and Australia. Anyway.
That's not a lockdown. This is a lockdown.
Is this your dream calendar, Nigel? Back when
this is genuinely what I think will happen.
That's cool. Well, we've got a few months, but it was touch and go for 2020. There's no reason why it won't be touch and go for 2021. We haven't really got much word on testing yet either, so who knows what's going to happen.
Just quickly, out of these 23 or 22 races confirmed so far, how many do we like? Out of the circuits on the calendar, how many do each of us like?
We run through them and give a rating.
Yeah.
I reckon I like about 15. There's too many races for a start. Far too many.
I mean, there's 52 weeks in a year. There's 23 races.
Yeah, it's too many.
There's only a few weeks off being half the year being a Formula One Grand Prix.
That's the dream.
2 weeks apart, slightly different format. Have like 2 or 3 different formats across the year.
I do quite like double headers.
I like double header. Triple headers. I feel bad. 2
or 3 triple headers here across.
Not that
continents and countries.
I think every race being 2 weeks apart would feel a bit empty for me. I'd rather.
It's how it used to be.
Throw in a few. Yeah, I know, but so back then I'd think it wasn't. Think I could do with a race. I think throw in a few double headers, no triple headers, and you sort it.
Formula One in 2018. Well, let's try a triple header and see what happens. But it's fine. They're countries that are really close together because it's Austria, France, and the UK. And then they said in 2018, don't worry, we won't do that again. We know it was really mean on the teams. So now they've got one going from Russia to Suzuka, and is it Singapore that it's involved with as well?
Russia, Singapore, Suzuka, yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to be a bit of a burnout, isn't it? You kind of think by the end, once you're on Suzuka is a track that requires full concentration, and everyone is going to be tired off their noggin. They're not going to be able to concentrate at all. You kind of don't want fatigue to be impacting the drivers too much.
I'm not too fussed about the drivers, to be honest. It's more about the team.
Mechanics. Yeah, you're right.
Nine races in 12 weeks across, 4 continents. It's somewhere in the middle of the season. I can't remember which bit for next year.
They try to limit it by adding the curfews and say you can't work into the night because you'll get fined, that kind of thing. You've got 2 curfews allowed per season in case you need to rebuild the car, which wasn't the case. You used to get mechanics getting 2 or 3 hours sleep on a Grand Prix weekend, and that was it. That was only until about 10 years ago that was the case. But it still doesn't limit it. And even if you do 2-day weekends for a triple header, you're still the fatigue comes from the pack up and the travel and going to different places. They did a 2-day weekend in Imola. The reason behind it being to give them time to travel from Portugal to Imola, which is interesting because they've not really thought about it like that before. But everyone was just milling around Imola on Wednesday anyway.
My problem with the long calendar is F1 being F1, we haven't had many championship fights recently. So then if Hamilton or Mercedes does dominate, the second half of the season just becomes so draggy. Like this weekend and the final few races, I'm not really looking forward to them as much as I should be almost. Whereas at least a 15 to 18 race calendar, it makes it feel a bit more, it makes each event feel more unique and it doesn't draw out the season, especially if there is no championship fight, which we haven't had for 4 years. Yes, 17 and 18 were close to the first 12 races.
2016 was the last championship fight we really had.
And then we haven't had a championship fight between two teams since 2012. So
it brings us nicely on to the point that Lewis Hamilton can wrap up the Formula One World Championship for 2020, bringing him his seventh world title, his seventh World Drivers' title this weekend at the Turkish Grand Prix, which will be interesting because it's not Mexico where he seems to wrap up every other title. I think how many points do you need to score? Is it like 4 more points than Bottas to do it, or 8? One of the two.
Is it 4th place or above?
You can't lose by 8. So if Bottas wins, there's the fastest lap thing though. That's going to annoy. The fastest lap makes it a bit more complicated. If he comes second and Bottas doesn't get the fastest lap, then he wins.
There we are. Then.
Well, I mean,
it feels likely.
If he loses by 8 or more, then he'll just win next weekend. It's not, or next round. It's not a massive deep thing. It's just whether he wins it in Turkey or not.
I reckon the Kingdom of Bahrain would absolutely adore the championship to be won in Bahrain. But I think it'd be weird if it was won in Turkey, a Grand Prix you weren't even going to be going to until quite late. We were probably, I don't know when it was announced, but it was really late that Turkey was announced.
Might be a good metaphor for the year, though. He wins a championship in a country that wasn't even going to host it until about 2 months ago.
Yeah. Another interesting fight is obviously the constructor fight for third. We have Renault on 135 and then McLaren and Racing Point on 134 points, both of them on the same number. That is incredibly close going into the final few rounds. Although I don't think it will remain this close. I think Renault are going to walk it.
Oh.
I mean, it's impossible to say. There's nothing between them. It's literally coming down to the finest margin to set up, a bit of luck, the strategy, the drivers being on top of their game. It's impossible to call. I really, really don't know who's going to come out on top.
Yeah, it's kind of teams have good weekends and bad weekends. There's not too much consistency within the fight. I don't think.
That's where I think Renault.
I think it's between Racing Point and Renault. I don't think McLaren are going to get it.
If you track the... I was just going to say, I think it's going to be whoever I said in the podcast we did a few races ago.
I can't remember that.
I said it would be whoever gets the least amount of retirements.
Yeah.
And so far.
I think we all went for different teams just for fun. But,
was it fun?
Tell us in the comments below.
That's why I think Renault, because I think Renault have had the most sort of consistent haul of points recently, because they were far behind coming into round 5 or 6 with Renault, and McLaren were far ahead, and Racing Point has sort of just been a bit steady with it since then. McLaren have probably been the worst since then, and Renault have been the best since then. And the momentum currently in performance and results is with Renault. Although they did miss the chance to win, and both teams, all of them missed the chance to win in Monza, which would have put them sitting pretty. And Racing Point obviously have had their 15-point deduction, but that's granted, that's worth it. So It's close, and I just think Renault have got the momentum behind them. They've had the results recently.
I think Bahrain out is going to be the decider,
because it will be a slipstream fest until the line.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, I just think whoever has it coming out of that will be the one to take it home in Abu Dhabi.
Even this weekend, if Renault, McLaren or Racing Point, if they both get a high double points finish, so they get 4th and 5th, 4th and 6th, or podium, whatever, for 2 cars, I still don't think it's going to be a true reflection, because it's a new track. The track's been resurfaced, just like it was at Portimao, and Portimao was chaos, quite frankly, with McLaren doing well early on and stuff in the race. Yeah, so even if one of those teams has a 10-point margin after this weekend, I still think any of them can win, because Turkey won't be representative of Bahrain or Abu Dhabi at all.
They're all going to be completely different tracks. They're all going to provide completely different challenges. Even the Bahrain layouts, they're both power tracks, but all 3 teams have performed well at power tracks and non-power tracks, to be honest. Renault, obviously, at a high downforce Nürburgring, got a podium, but also performed really well at Silverstone, which you would have down as a power track. But then, obviously, McLaren were 2nd and 4th on the grid or something. No, 3rd and 4th on the grid in Monza, which everyone was tipping to be Renault's stomping ground. And Racing Point have just been there all the time with Perez. And which brings us on to an interesting point about Lance Stroll, which we'll get onto into a second. So it's impossible to call, but I just think Renault have been doing a bit better.
There's only been one weekend all year when all 3 of the teams have got a double points finish.
Ooh.
It's just, there's
what?
Anyone want to guess?
Austria 2.
No.
Okay.
So you're saying McLaren haven't had
all 3 teams have had.
All 3 teams have had a double point finish.
Yeah.
But, it's just,
that's not.
Every team is getting a set. One of the 3 teams is getting a setback every weekend. So it's just kind of.
They do take up 6 spots out of the 10, and you've already got the top 3. So
that's 6 spots out of the 20 if you count the whole grid.
But McLaren had great reliability or kind of great consistency in finishing the races for a lot of the season. Then they had 3 retirements in a row. In the DNS. So every weekend,
first
one of the teams
non-points
is getting
finish.
set back.
I think McLaren's first non-points finish, I think, was Sochi. I think. So that's on the face of it, that's really.
Is the answer Sochi?
No, the answer is Monza.
Was it? Sorry, I wasn't listening.
No, Carlos Sainz drove into the wall at the start of the race because he couldn't be bothered.
Since Monza, none of the teams have had. Well, there's been a retirement from one of the 3 in every race as well. Often there's been a retirement from each of the teams. It's like it's completely up in the air. And
what we like to see.
Yeah, I think I'll back Renault for it. Bringing it back to the start.
Yeah, and Racing Point have really been batting one-handed. I don't know if that's a phrase. I'm going to make it a phrase.
Well, it depends how good you are at cricket or baseball with one hand.
One hand is rounders anyway, so I guess they're just playing rounders.
Oh, is it? Is that the difference? I've always wondered what the difference was.
In rounders, it's not a disadvantage to bat one-handed.
Yeah, that's a good point. Renault have been playing, not Renault, Racing Point have been playing rounders when they should be playing cricket. And now it's a disadvantage. And that's the segue into Lance Stroll's recent performances. He obviously hasn't performed amazingly since his return to Formula One after his COVID diagnosis following the Nürburgring weekend, which he didn't take part in. And Racing Point have finally sort of conceded that there might be a sort of long COVID kind of issue going on here. He might still be feeling a bit of illness and fatigue when he's driving the car, which is quite a serious situation for him. They also came out and said he needs a hug, which if he's got COVID stuff, maybe not. But
great.
you kind of think it's not the best position for Racing Point.
Yeah, both people in hazmat suits, and then there's no transmission.
Yeah, I guess it kind of defeats the care you get from the hug when you're sort of wearing plastic and a massive mask on your head and a hazmat. It's a hazmat suit.
Yeah. You're bringing problems. I'm bringing solutions. What can I say?
Is that what you're going to go and find? You're going to go to Turkey and give Lance Stroll a hug in a hazmat suit and give him a hazmat suit?
No, because I've got uni. But I would if I didn't.
See, you're just bringing more problems, not bringing solutions, Adam.
That's true.
I think there's no answer for Lance Stroll then. He's just going to unfortunately need to get better.
I'm glad we solved that one.
He has had a bit of a dire run of form, but I think his pace, I don't really know. It's a hard one to... Is it a cop-out to link it to COVID or not? What do we think?
I really don't think his season has been as great as quite a lot of people think. I really don't. I just think the circumstances, the car he's got, has allowed him to get some good results. The best results of his career. But that's because he's got a good car, not because of him. That is my opinion on someone like Stroll. So, yes, the COVID obviously hurt his momentum, perhaps his confidence, but I still don't think it's that far off, like compared to how he normally performs. Anyway, I just think Racing Point don't have the advantage that they had earlier in the season, and Stroll's been found out by lacking that last tenth in qualifying or the bit of racecraft he needs in the race to make an overtake when he's got a better car than his rivals ahead. So that's my take.
There have been suggestions that he hasn't. Sorry, there have been suggestions that he hasn't gelled with the recent suspension upgrades as well as Perez has, and that's sort of made his performances more recently drop off a bit. And obviously, around the Russian Grand Prix, that kind of time, Perez was ahead, but Stroll had the upgrades. And even when Perez got the upgrades, he was more ahead. So that kind of lends itself to your point of view there, Nigel, because he was performing well at the start of the season, and he obviously qualified a brilliant third in Budapest, and was because of the car. But he still got that bunch above Perez. Is the point there? Is what I'm making. And he was still there with Perez in Barcelona. So I think he hasn't gelled with the car as much as the season's gone on, I think.
Yeah, Perez has had COVID as well and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, Barcelona was his return.
And he was able to bounce back in a way. So,
Well, Stroll's not scored a point since Monza. So to take your cricket analogy, he's had a good first 10 overs, and then they bowled maidens at him for the next 5. He's not... It's just completely dropped off a cliff, and he's got to be worried, and the team has to be worried, because they've taken a big kind of gamble backing him, and then basically since they've backed him and hired him for next year, even though laughably F1 put out a tweet of which place is still up for grabs in the driving market, and he wasn't, compared to Aston Martin, so there's a lot of comedy comments under that. But, they've taken kind of a big step to back him, and they've got to be kind of worried that it will blow back in their face, especially because Vettel doesn't kind of look like coming in and smashing it out of the park either. So it's quite, there's reasons to be worried a lot for next year, and they just can't. Yeah.
It's Racing Point's management who are being hit for 6 now, because you've got another cricket thing in there. Because Vettel's performances have been atrocious. Frankly, he did.
I just want to say on Stroll, there's a lot being made about the crash in Mugello when he was running 4th, doing a pretty good race actually.
That was his best drive of the year, I think.
And whether the crash has affected him, and stuff. But I always think drivers who make a big mistake, and yes, this one wasn't this wasn't his fault. So correction. No. Drivers who have a big crash, whether it's their fault or not. In this case, it wasn't. It was good because he didn't make a mistake. The good drivers are able to bounce back straight away, or nearly straight away. So, because to me, it says a lot about the character and how talented they are, which is why I think, for George Russell, the next couple of races, I'm really interested to see how he goes, because he had a big moment last time out at Imola.
Yes.
So, for Stroll to not be able to bounce back, I think it's those little things which gives me the opinion that I have on him.
Yeah, I think, the great batsmen have a run of low scores and then go out and make a secondary just like that. They're just able to turn it off. So, think of Alistair Cook, or, he's just got that ability. And it's the same in F1. And I just wanted to put another cricket reference in there. There wasn't any point to me saying that. But I'm glad I did.
But Nigel, you're absolutely right. And it's not sometimes with a crash. It's not having the crash. It's how you crash and that kind of thing. And I look at Hockenheim last year, and Hamilton, when Bottas crashed at turn 1 and put himself out of the race at Hockenheim, Hamilton had spun there in a nearly carbon copy move and been able to hold the car and carry on. And they made a near identical mistake. The car spun in the same way, and Bottas hit the wall. Hamilton didn't. And I know it's a really awkward thing to make comparisons with, but Hamilton's the world-class driver out of the two, and Bottas is the one who leaves a lot to be desired. And there's a reason that some drivers are great, and it's how they deal with these situations. And like you say, when a driver doesn't bring himself back up to the form he needs to, then it's a mark against a whole season of what should be the best season of his career.
This is why I rate Bottas so highly, though, because he's up against Hamilton, and he does get beat frequently. Yet every time he's able to bounce back and qualify, whether sometimes he's a 10th behind, but sometimes he's a 10th ahead. And
that's a good point.
That's why I rate him high. Look at Carlos Sainz. He's not exactly the greatest driver on the grid. He had a big crash at Sochi, which was completely his fault, a complete brain fade. But he's been doing all right. He's been back on not top form, but he's not good in Portugal. He's all right, wasn't it? But he's been back on form as well since his crash. So I really do think those key moments define a driver's career, and it tells me personally a lot about how good they actually are.
What also came out with the calendar news that we mentioned earlier was some additions to Formula 2 and Formula 3 with their calendars. Obviously, they're both running separate calendars this year rather than running concurrently on the Formula 1 season. They are all support events to Formula 1, but in their own right. And those calendars have been interestingly received. Formula 2 has a provisional calendar with Bahrain, Monaco, Baku, Silverstone, Monza, Sochi, Jeddah in Saudi, and Abu Dhabi. And that will feature 3 rounds at each of those events as a support series. It's not really been received that well. It's not a very diverse calendar, and it seems to be a bit weird.
Yeah,
I think
good job
well
for not swearing there,
Monza.
Freddie, because I would have if I was presenting.
I think it's going well up to Monza. I think there's quite a nice mix of, obviously, Sakir, big new Tilke circuit that people like. Silverstone and Monza, 2 old ones, provide different challenges. And then obviously Baku and Monaco also provide unique challenges.
And they're good for F2, those 2 tracks, actually. F2 goes really well at Monaco and Baku, I think.
So, I think that's really good. You get a good mix there, and then you get the triple header. I mean, not actually a triple header, but Sochi, Jeddah, and Yas Marina, which is one track that's a street circuit that we've not been to, and 2 are kind of hybridy, strange race circuits that should be street circuits designed by Tilke that are awful and everyone hates. So it drops off a bit after Monza. So maybe we should just cut it off at Monza and say, whoever's winning there is the champion, and then just do 3 exhibition races after that.
Oh, God.
Well, it depends on how the Jeddah track turns out. my mindset is I think it will be a bit like the Baku track. And if it is similar to that, I don't know what Jeddah is like at all as a city, but they're doing it by the coastline in like quite a resorty kind of area. So presumably they know what they're doing with it. And I reckon it could be similar to Baku. If it is going through a bit of Old Town, going through a bit of New Town, then it might be all right. But later on in the season, it'd be a complete curveball of a track to have that late on. And it is going to be 9 races from Sochi to Yas Marina. So there's going to be a lot of points to pick up there. So it's still important. And it just gets that weird part of F2, like we've had this year, where it's just sort of hanging around. And it's not like the full season as it has been prior to in the European season, where we've got F2 as well. We've got F2 as well. And you're always watching there for the F2 weekend as well as the Formula 1 weekend. Whereas we're now in that weird sort of limbo phase between the chunk of the championship and just the signing off of the championship, really. So it's going to be a bit weird, I think, a bit weird just in that kind of period from a championship point of view.
I think if you put in, so the last 3 of the F3 are Spa, Zandvoort and Austin. Yeah. I think if you put in Spa and Austin instead of Sochi and Yas Marina, and you're right, Jeddah is a curveball and it might be interesting to kind of see how it goes. If you had that would be absolutely mega. That'd be such a good calendar for it. It'd have different tracks, different types of tracks, like ones that people like. That'd be great. But yeah, it's just a really damp end. And as you say, there's going to be a massive waiting around period. The room mill's going to be going into overdrive. So
the F2 calendar is probably one of the worst calendars that I've ever seen in motorsport. It is absolutely horrific. I mean, 8 venues across 10 months for a series that is going to go round the globe. It's ridiculous. And I understand why it's happening. I understand because of the economic cost. But if they're struggling financially, why doesn't F1 help? It's like the Premier League. They should help the lower leagues, the Championship League 1, League 2, non-league. If F2 and F3 are really struggling that much, get F1 to help and don't have a calendar like this. In Bahrain, it's just tyre management crazy. And you're not able to see the true talents of the drivers because you're just saving tyres. Then you got Monaco, which is just qualified. You can't overtake. Baku's just chaos, and who knows what happens. The Silverstone and Monza, yeah, they're good. But then the last 3 races, Sochi, probably the worst track, one of the worst tracks in the world. Jeddah, I mean, why would you go to Saudi Arabia? And then Abu Dhabi is, I hate that track as well. And it's just, there's 2-month gaps in between round 1 and 2, and there's another 2-month gap from Sochi to Jeddah as well. So everyone's going to forget what's happened. I mean, I've nearly forgot what's happened in this year's F2 season because there's been such a big gap. The worst thing to have in a calendar is 2 or 3 month gaps in between races, and we've got it twice for this. And for a series that's going to go round the world, effectively, or Asia and Europe, you can't be having this. You've got to have more tracks. You've got to have at least 10 minimum, I'd say, for a series that goes outside Europe. If they need money, F1 should help them, because this calendar, it's actually put me off F2 for next year.
Actually, it's just an anti-Nigel calendar. They've just made it to annoy Nigel.
The F1
you can tell he's from Wigan, can't you? You can tell he's annoyed about what's happened to Wigan in the past few months.
Oh. The F1 calendar's got too much.
Or he went all north, he went ink calendar at one point. That was cool. I like that.
The F1 calendar's got the opposite problem, and this is just taking it to a new level, and it really is. It's a mockery.
I enjoy the form of the podcast where Adam and I are relatively optimistic about it and think, well, okay. And then we just sort of stop talking for a bit, and then Nigel chimes in and rants for about 5 minutes on it. I think we're going to use that format for the F3 calendar now. So, Adam, let's talk about the F2 calendar.
Kind of a thing, just to point on both of them, is I'd imagine for saving cost, then the length of time, the length of the season in terms of months will also be quite a big factor, because I don't know how drivers' contracts work, kind of where they're employed to and from, but I just would have thought it's pretty much the same length as the F1 calendar in terms of months, and they could have chopped kind of 3 months off either side by just, compressing, having different first and last races.
Yeah.
I think that would have been good.
Compress
What did you want
the
to say about the
calendar.
F3 calendar?
I was just going to run through it.
Go for it.
And yeah, we got Barcelona, Paul Ricard, Austria.
What's a start?
Yeah,
That's good.
this jumps around a bit, but then it does have a run in the middle. You have France, then Austria, then you've got Hungary, Spa, Zandvoort, Austin, as you said, and that's a more diverse calendar. It's more compressed. It starts later, ends earlier, but that's traditional for F3. Actually, extending it out to Austin is going to be one of the latest ends of F3 there's been in a long time, or GP3, whatever you refer to it as. When it did used to go to Yas Marina, but hasn't really recently. So I think that works for F3 because it takes out some of the joker tracks like Monza that you always had in F3, and where it's just essentially whoever can stay on the track towards the end, which is not really the best for a junior series, which is what we have in most of F2 now, as Nigel was alluding to. But I think the whole general idea for doing it like this is quite sound, and we will have got to do some math. We'll have 13 rounds on the Formula One calendar. 15 rounds. 15 rounds with
7
support.
+ 8, Freddie.
7 + 8 is not 13. It's 15. This is why I'm not doing engineering.
6 times 9.
Note that question down for when I next do the quiz.
54.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
I mean,
I had to do the hand thing. You just do.
I mean, this calendar isn't immune to massive gaps as well. You've got 2-month gap between, or near 2-month gap between first and second race, and again between the second last and last race. I think I'd like to see a street circuit in there. I think that would be my one thing. Just put it in, and it's different.
I mean, they don't have a street circuit in F3 normally anyway, do they?
No, but I think going forward, I don't know. I think it'd just be interesting, give a different dynamic to it.
It'd be interesting to do, say, F3 at Baku rather than F2 at Monaco and Baku. And then maybe send F2 to Spain or something like that instead, that kind of thing.
The only thing that can make F2 and F3 worse next year is if they have 3 races which are all like 20-minute sprint races. If they do that, I'm just...
Nigel will combust. We'll have a podcast straight afterwards, and it will just have like, hello and welcome to the... And then Nigel will... It'll be like in Kingsman. His head will just explode and fireworks will come out of it.
That would be beautiful if it was like in Kingsman. That was really pretty. And they blew up Obama's head in the White House. It was in like some like purple, cool sort of smoke thing.
Yeah, that's what's really going to happen to Nigel.
We'll turn into a comic book explosion.
Yeah, we'll have to get it to get Nigel to like see it for the first time on air, and then just see it.
It'll be our first ever live stream. It will be Nigel watching an F3 race or something.
And the Albon cut-out poster will just like fall slowly off the wall.
Well, Albon's been dropped to F3. That's where he is. He's racing in F3.
And it will just be like,
that'll be Nigel
really close to the camera like that, like smiling. Yeah.
Do any of you have anything to add on the new calendars for Formula 2 and Formula 3?
The F3 one's not too bad. It's still not ideal.
Yay,
compared
happy
to the
Nigel.
F2. I mean,
I quite like
minimum 10.
I quite like the F2 apart from 2, maybe 3 races.
You actually like the F2?
Not in terms of the gap.
I
think the gaps are ridiculous, but I quite like the blend of the first up to Monza. And like Freddie's kind of persuaded me on Jeddah that it will actually be quite interesting seeing, as a one-off, having them at a new track, learning it, seeing how that goes. But
it might be terrible in 2022 when we decide we hate Jeddah. But at the moment we can be optimistic or open-minded. How about you do that, Nigel?
And the great joke that colander, quite like doing that every now and then. But
sorry, what was the joke? You just said 2 words that sounded similar.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Cracks me up every time.
Is it because lots of tracks have fallen through the cracks, like you have gaps in a colander?
Yes.
It's hilarious. So let's bring it back to the Grand Prix that we're having for this Turkish
really?
preview. We've discussed a bit about the track. Let's fire off some quick predictions. Who do you think is going to finish third? Adam, tell me now.
Maximum Verstappen.
Maximum Verstappen. Nigel Chu, who's going to finish third? Minimum
Stole
Verstappen.
my answer, so I'm probably gonna have to go with Hamilton.
Ooh, that's interesting. I was going to say Verstappen as well, but I'll say Bottas.
What if we have a crazy race? What if we have like Giovinazzi?
I think the midfield will be.
I'd be really
madness.
happy if it was Giovinazzi.
I feel like we could just have a crazy race and we'll get like just someone, like Kvyat or
You know
something.
what?
Doesn't Giovinazzi have to like shave off his hair or something if he gets a podium? Isn't
on the podium?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just like get the trophy and then like put it on his head.
His hair's
and
like
then cut around it like a bowl cut, and then take the trophy off.
Is that where the colander thing comes into it?
No.
Oh.
You know what? With the resurfacing and how crazy Portimao was when that track was resurfaced, Turkey could be quite similar. Plus, we've got two DRS zones, which I don't think they had in 2011.
Where's the second DRS zone?
So the first one's down towards turn 12, the hairpin where Webber and Vettel crash, and then down the main straight. So we could see cars overtaking, then re-overtaking through those last few corners and down to turn 1 because the two DRS zones so close together.
There's only a switchback chicane in between them, really.
Yeah, and you can even make a cheeky overtake there sometimes. So I think we're going to see some brilliant racing, lots of overtaking, which is a good thing because we didn't get much of that in Imola. I do think I think the midfield is going to be kind of mad.
I think it would be great, the midfield.
Yeah.
I think you've got wide bits of track. We had that in Portimao, and you had cars going all over the place on that bit of the track, and that would then inspire. If you got DRS into turn 1, you could get a move back through there, but it was hard to actually get an original move traditionally there in Turkey.
And
I was
going to
put a McLaren on the podium. Going to say that.
Okay, so Giovinazzi, a McLaren.
No, not
and
Giovinazzi.
Maximum Verstappen.
Not Giovinazzi.
So Verstappen's in third, Giovinazzi's in second, and the McLaren is winning.
Giovinazzi's retired. And then loses his seat immediately after the race. Sorry, Nigel.
Right. If turn 8 is flat out as well, that would just make racing even better too, because then it would just be like a straight with turns. So
it will be essentially straight all the way up until, you've got the little chicane after at turn 9 and 10, but then that's only a little interruption before you get to 11 and 12, long straight round there, which is quite going to be, I think it's going to be cool. I'm excited to see it.
It's also a warm-up for the Bahrain outer layout, I think, if not...
I was about to say that, yeah.
Interesting.
It's cool. With turns that are flat out, like a bit of science here, you actually gain more, like because the car ahead's scrubbing off speed, whereas the car behind is still in the slipstream. So if you have a fast turn leading onto a straight that's flat out, that's what creates good racing rather than a slow turn before a long straight.
Well, me and Freddie actually played this on Wii F1 2009 a few weeks ago. It was quite chaos. I mean, the AI was like on very easy, but came through from the back and won. So maybe that will repeat itself.
Yes, I did.
Bank on it.
Maybe I will win. That's an interesting prediction. So we made a prediction for third. Who's going to get pole? I think Bottas.
Hamilton.
Cool. Who is going to
race on this track?
Hamilton has, Raikkonen has, Vettel has.
It was before
Perez has.
Yes.
Yeah.
Might be it. Oh, there's going to be someone else. There's going to be someone else.
Ricciardo did a practice session.
Oh, did he? Okay. It was a bit early in the season in 2011, wasn't it?
Bottas raced in GP3, apparently.
Oh, I don't know the rest of them on Junior Series. Grosjean.
No.
Grosjean, So, it's Hamilton, Vettel, Raikkonen, Perez, and Ricciardo did a practice session. Those are the ones.
Yeah, there's not going to be many.
Kind of the usual suspects then for returning Grand Prix. Not for Imola, but yeah, for like Nürburgring then. That's about it actually. Anyone else have any random predictions? Do you have any crazy things like, I don't know, at turn 3, Alonso's going to run onto the track and say boo or something like that? I don't know.
For Imola, I predicted George Russell would get his first point, and I'm going to predict he's not going to get his first point at Istanbul.
Well, that's points to Adam. Nigel, do you have any more crazy predictions than Adam's absolutely out there prediction that I don't see happening? That's unbelievable, that.
I'll give 11 finishes. 11 finishes and Russell is 11th.
That'll be his best position, though. He's not finished 11th. No, he's finished 11th once, isn't it?
Yes.
Nigel,
yeah. I think Renault will both get a top 5.
Ooh, that's cool. That's a fun prediction.
I think the car's quite efficient around this circuit with a straight line. Speed being a big factor. I think that could put them just ahead of the midfield, perhaps.
I'll say there'll be a Haas in the points. Why not? I don't know why. I've just got a feeling.
I can give you reasons why not if you want.
I can give you reasons why George Russell's definitely going to score points.
No, you can't.
No, I can't.
Exactly.
So we're now going to move on to the obviously most important and most look forward to part of the podcast ever. And it's the quiz, this week's quiz, the little turkey quiz, the quiz about turkeys. Don't worry, there's not actually a question about turkeys because I didn't think of that, but it would have been quite a good idea. So it is Adam Dickinson versus Nigel Chew to go head to head. Angry Nigel Chew. So he's going to be fired up to do well, I guess. Adam, are you fired up to make him angrier?
No, I'm icy cool. I'm Kimi Räikkönen. I'm the Iceman.
Kimi Räikkönen versus an angry driver.
Degrassi.
Yeah, Degrassi.
Oh, Degrassi, yeah. I like Degrassi.
Oh, you just complimented him. Now he's not angry anymore.
All part of the plan. What can I say?
You ready for question 1, gents?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, now I am.
Oh, now he is. Okay, cool. We had to wait for that. I'm just writing down your names on the score sheet. Adam and Nigel. When was the first Turkish Grand Prix?
Adam.
Adam was heard first by me.
2005.
Yes, got it just at the death there. I was going to say no, it wasn't 2000, but it was.
I didn't know how long a pause to leave because I didn't
nearly
want to
too long. I nearly
wrong.
said no. It's 1 point to Adam after one question. I think he might win this. Question 2. Who won the first ever race there?
Adam.
Adam said it first.
This isn't fair. Adam's been... Right, we've had a little break in between the recordings because Zoom only does 40 minutes and Adam's been watching videos on
Kimi
YouTube.
Räikkönen.
It was Kimi Räikkönen, yes. Nigel, you could have been watching videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I was too busy.
I rewatched the whole
ready to
2010 race for this quiz.
Too busy stabbing Albans. Dob.
Who holds the race lap record at the Istanbul Park Circuit?
Race lap? Fastest lap, you mean?
Fastest lap done in the race, so it's not like the fastest qualifying lap.
Adam. We're going Lewis Hamilton.
It's wrong.
Got very excited.
I'm going to go for Alonso.
It's wrong as well.
Good shout.
Adam?
Webber?
No.
Montoya.
Yeah, it's Montoya.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember now. When Montoya set that really fast lap.
I don't remember that, but I remember for the period kind of from when I started watching for a while,
Montoya was in this
people weren't breaking fastest laps. It's called lap record.
I think it was set in the first Grand Prix there.
Yeah, it would have been.
But equally, I
he had a shocker.
I wouldn't have ever gone for that.
I don't think he was around for the 2006 race. I think he'd already been sat by McLaren.
Yeah, he did after season.
He's like, I don't want to be here. So they said, go. Yeah, Pedro De La Rosa isn't there. He did well, Pedro De La Rosa. Anyway, question 4. This is a hard one. Sorry. What is the nickname given to Turn 11 at Istanbul Park?
Adam. Red Bull corner.
No.
What
That
does
was
it
turn
begin
12.
with?
It begins with F.
A lot of words are just coming to my head.
Angry Nigel's back.
I can give you a clue if you want, because it's a really hard one.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a pun on a famous corner in Formula One on another track.
Famous corner.
A famous corner. It's not called Famous Corner. Is that your guess?
I can
Because it's not that famous a corner, this corner.
remember the start, I think.
Give it yourself. Don't want to give it to Nigel, because I could give it away.
Right,
got
so you got Farm at Silverstone. So it's not that. You got. There's nothing at Monza.
Fun fact about
Freddie, while we're waiting for mine and Adam's answers, why don't you plug the podcast a bit?
I was going to do that. I was going to also say, when you said Monza, what some people did call Turn 8 was Diabolica in the first few years there, but I think that's just because they found it hard. The podcast, you can find the podcast on @WingItF1 on Twitter. You can listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Acast, Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. I've got a Twitter. It's @FredCoates1999. Nigel's is @Nigel C. Journo, and Adam's is @AdamDickinson01. Please love us. Do you guys have an answer yet?
No, I think you went through that a bit quickly.
Okay.
Is it Fangio or Farina? Or...
It's not. Neither of those. It's not named after a driver.
No,
Do you want me to tell you the corner, and then you can try and
remember
guess what it is and see who buzzes in quickest?
Yes.
The corner it's named after is Eau Rouge.
Adam. Is it Faux Rouge?
It is Faux Rouge.
I knew it was fake. I was thinking in English fake something, and I couldn't remember what it was. But,
Faux Rouge.
It's good Faux Rouge. I quite like it.
Yeah.
Is that real? Faux
Yeah,
Rouge?
it's real.
Yeah.
What Jonathan Lagarde said on the coverage when I rewatched the 2010 Grand Prix in revision for this quiz. It was a lot of revision. Oh man, my dog is angry at you, as he always is. Okay, question number 5. Currently it's 3-1 to Adam, I think, if I've marked it correctly. I have. The 2011 race was a record-breaking Grand Prix. Not only was it the final ever Turkish Grand Prix until on Friday, it was it also had the most pit stops ever. The races on Sunday. It also had the most pit stops ever for a dry race. How many?
There's a lot. There's like 4 pit stops on average.
Adam.
More than 4. Yes.
89.
Oh, it's close.
Yeah, it's in that region. I think it's about 86.
Oh, it's also close. It's closer.
Adam. 87.
Oh, he's gone the wrong way.
84.
Oh no.
Oh, he's gone the right way.
Adam.
He's still wrong. Adam.
85.
No.
82.
I don't know what you said, mate.
Oh dear.
What did you say, Nigel? Say it.
82.
No, it's wrong.
Adam, 83.
No, it's wrong.
81.
No.
80.
Yay. 80.
I mean,
the most ever pit stops in a Grand Prix is 88, and that was in the 2011 Hungarian Grand Prix, but that was wet, so that's different.
Button's got the record for the most stops for a win.
And it's 6.
At the Canadian Grand Prix, yeah.
Fun fact, for no points, who has the record for the most stops in a race? It's 7.
Senna.
No, similar.
Prost.
Yes, 1993 Donington.
Yeah. That was the race up. Yeah.
This is not a close quiz. Adam is on 4, Nigel is on 1, but maybe Nigel
I don't know
can
how
bring
much
it back.
I deserve a point for that, to be honest. It's just guessing numbers.
Well,
It's getting
the
into
Faux
the
Rouge one, I
ballpark.
gave you the answer for that as well. But that's the way the cookie has crumbled today.
Okay.
So this is an easy one. Who took his first ever pole and victory in 2006 at the Turkish Grand Prix?
Adam.
Adam?
Philippe A. Massa.
Yes, it was Felipe Massa. Now Adam's tally has a line through it because he's got 5 points, and Nigel needs to get every question to bring it to the tie-break question, which I need to write.
No, you won't.
That's all right. Your
something-
tie-break questions are always fantastic.
It'll be like, what does turkey go well with? And if you don't say cranberry sauce or something, you lose.
Chips.
Chips. Fair. Oh no, one of them. Yeah, Sebastian Vettel made his Grand Prix weekend debut in 2006 at the Turkish Grand Prix when BMW Sauber ran a third car on Friday for both practice sessions. What position did he finish in FP2?
Adam.
Nigel was heard first.
15th.
No,
Oh, I was going to go 14.
no, it's
Sixteen.
it's a notable position.
Last.
No,
Second to
69?
last.
No. 13.
69.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a notable
Don't stoop
position.
so low with this podcast.
It's a notable position. Tell me I'm wrong.
It's correct. It's wrong. And it wasn't second to last either, Nigel. You guys are definitely going the wrong direction.
You can't be
Adam.
first.
I was about to call.
Sorry.
Adam.
First.
It was first, yes.
What?
He was first in his second ever Formula One practice.
Are
In
you
a
serious?
Sauber in 2006.
I've got another fun fact.
Pretty good.
about Vettel.
That's unbelievable.
That's very good. Don't say it. It might be a question.
Well, I'm going to say anyway. He got the quickest ever penalty in an F1 career.
Well, good thing you've won the quiz, isn't it?
What was that for, Adam?
I was just speeding
Question
in the
8.
pit lane.
What 2 records did Vettel set that
I don't know.
weekend? One still stands to this day.
The quickest ever penalty in an F1 career for speeding in the pit lane. He got it like 15 seconds into his F1 career or something like
It
that.
was 9 seconds into the session.
9
He
seconds.
went 64 kilometers an hour. What was the other record? It's a 2-part question.
Topped an FP2 session.
Yeah, first
No, people had done that before him.
Oh, really?
rookie.
People had topped FP2 sessions.
First rookie to top a first session.
No.
First Vettel to race in F1.
I mean, no, he didn't race actually. It was a practice. You gave
I've
me a
got
look.
no
to say,
idea.
Get in the bin, Freddie.
First German to like do something.
No, Schumacher was on that Grand Prix weekend, mate.
First German to do something. Just up to 2006, Germans had done nothing.
Prior to
Just
that,
sat there.
there'd been no moments in history at all that had involved
They just
Germany
sat there,
whatsoever.
and then Vettel did that in 2006, and then they mobilised as a
Mobilised.
country and just started doing things, and then they've never looked back.
I mean, I'll give the point to Adam because he got the first bit. It was he was the youngest person ever at that point to take part in a Grand Prix weekend. He was 19 years and 53 days old. Obviously, that one doesn't stand today. So, you've got 2 questions left. They're pretty quick fire ones, so we'll wrap them up quick. Question 9. On what lap did Vettel crash into Mark Webber in 2010?
34. Sorry, I
Adam?
didn't show my name.
43.
Oh, it's close.
Oh,
Nigel,
Nigel's
42.
Oh, it's closer.
Adam,
41.
41.
Nigel, you could get a point.
40.
Yay. Nigel
Is
got a
exciting.
point for a guesswork question. Another guesswork question. Lewis Hamilton, one of his most memorable GP2 races at Turkey in 2006 in the sprint race, where he dropped to a particular position at the back from second, but then drove back up to finish second.
22nd.
No. What position did he drop to?
Hey, 24th.
No, these are
I don't even know if there are 24 drivers in the race.
Well,
Yeah.
it was not low. It was higher than that.
Oh. Why are these just guessing questions?
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Guess
kind of
the
thought you
numbers.
would get them
18.
quicker.
Mm.
Is it
Did someone
18th?
say 16th?
No. Did
Oh.
somebody say just Sorry. Adam,
Adam.
16th.
Yes, it's 16th.
Wow.
I genuinely thought you had
Oh.
said 16th.
No,
When
I
I
said
said
18.
higher, I thought you meant like a higher number.
Some of the questions in that quiz were good.
Yeah.
I did write it as I'd just woken up and my keyboard wasn't working, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse.
No, you shouldn't.
Again. But yeah, so Adam takes the crown today. He is the turkey man. Nigel is not the turkey man. He's going to get doused in cranberry sauce. And that's it. That's it for our Turkish preview podcast. We're going to look forward to the race because we're Formula One fans. And yeah, see you afterwards for our race review podcast, where hopefully we'll be discussing a McLaren on the podium, Antonio Giovinazzi shoving his head on the podium, the Renault's doing well, Haas in the points, George Russell not in the points. That's the bit I'm looking forward to. So thank you to Adam, thank you to Nigel. Thanks for joining for this podcast, guys. Have a good race weekend. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.